This is Warrior Kid Podcast number 26, Ask Uncle Jake. This podcast is based on the 3 Way of the Warrior Kid books. The first one, Wimpy to Warrior, the Navy SEAL Way. The second one, Mark's Mission. And now the third one, Where There's a Will. The books are about young Mark, who faces a lot of problems, and these are the problems that kids everywhere face. But Mark gets help solving those problems from his Uncle Jake, who was a Navy SEAL and who stays with Mark in the summertime. This podcast is for kids to hear some more lessons from Uncle Jake and also to get the chance to ask Uncle Jake some questions. So we're going to start off with some questions today. And the first question comes from Colby, who is from Massachusetts, and he is 10 years old. And he says, what if you hurt someone, but they don't accept your apology? Okay, well, once you have apologized to someone and they haven't accepted it, what you need to do is just keep trying to be nice to them. What you don't want to do is get mad at them for still being mad at you. If you do that, then that is a cycle that never ends. In fact, it's a cycle that just gets worse and worse. So don't let that happen. If they're mad at you and they stay mad at you and they won't accept your apology, try to understand the way they see it, right? And the way they see it is that you hurt them. And they're allowed to be mad. So you have to let them be mad. And also, here's another thing that might help you. If it seems like they are still mad, don't keep pestering them. Don't keep bothering them. Instead, just say sorry, apologize like you did, and then give them some space. Leave them alone. Let them settle down. Let their temper cool down for a little while. And that might be for a day. It might be 2 days. It might be a week. It might be a month. Just give them some space. Still, this doesn't mean that you ignore them, though. It doesn't mean you turn up your nose at them and be obnoxious about it. That's not what I'm talking about when I say give them space. Still be nice to them. Still be polite. But just don't pester them. Let some time go by, because time is one of the best ways for people to get over their anger. And Colby, you had another question. And the question was, what does stand by Bustin mean? And this is obviously coming from the Way of the Warrior Kid books. And I know that in the latest Way of the Warrior Kid book, Where There's a Will, there's a great picture of Uncle Jake, and he's saying the words, Bustin. So that is a phrase that we used in the SEAL teams. And what it meant the same thing as on your mark, get set, go. But instead of saying on your mark, get set, go, we would just say stand by, Bustin. And that meant go. Bustin meant go. Stand by means get on your mark and get set. Now, I don't know where this actually came from or who in the SEAL teams made it up, or even if it was even made up in the SEAL teams or if it was made up somewhere else. But the first time I ever heard it was in a SEAL platoon. And we would say it all the time. We would say it at the beginning of running races and swimming races and anytime we were doing any kind of race. And I always liked that phrase. It always got me fired up to go and to go hard whenever I heard it. So I still use it, and that's why I put it in the Warrior Kid books. So when you're with your friends and you want to race, don't say on your mark, get set, go. Say stand by, Bustin. The next question is from Cadence, who is a 7-year-old warrior kid from California. And the question is, Uncle Jake, I compete in Jiu Jitsu and I am a competition gymnast. I want to know how you eat healthy food if you don't like the taste. Thank you. Okay, Cadence. Well, I'll tell you one thing. First of all, it is awesome that you are training Jiu Jitsu and gymnastics. Those are 2 great sports, and they are going to help you do so many different things in your life besides just Jiu Jitsu and gymnastics. Gymnastics gives you so much flexibility and so much strength, and Jiu Jitsu gives you the ability to defend yourself, and these are great things for you to be practicing. Now, if you are training gymnastics and jiu-jitsu, you are definitely going to need to eat good food, healthy food, strong food, so that you can be strong and that you can have energy. And if you don't like the taste of healthy foods, I think the best thing for you to do is to start mixing some of the healthy food with some food that you actually really like. And let me give you an example. The example I'm going to use is eggs, because eggs are one of the healthiest foods that a person can eat, but I didn't really like eggs very much. In fact, I didn't like them at all. I didn't like the consistency, the kind of mushy in my mouth. I didn't really like that. I didn't really like the smell. And so what I did, but eggs are really good for you. So what I did is I started making scrambled eggs with bacon in there. And I like bacon, and cheese in there, and I like cheese, and ham, and I like ham, and onions. I like all those other things. And when I first started making these scrambled eggs, it was mostly the other stuff and very little egg. It was almost all bacon and cheese and ham and onions. There was just a little bit of egg in there. Then over time, I got used to the egg, and I needed less and less and less of the other stuff. And eventually, I started to like eggs. And that is the best thing that I think you can do, is you take food that's healthy that maybe you don't like very much, and you mix it with food that you do like. And then just over time, use less and less of the food that you like and use more and more of the healthy food. Keep training. Cadence, that is awesome. Gymnastics and jiu-jitsu, keep training hard. The next question is from Torin, who is from England, as a matter of fact. And the question is, what were you scared of? And are you still scared of anything? The main thing that I was scared of during war was that something bad was going to happen to one of my guys. And I never stopped being scared of that. I would always be scared that something bad would happen to one of my guys, that they would get hurt, that they would get wounded, or maybe even that they could get killed. And so what we did was we trained as hard as we could, and we prepared as much as we could so that we would be as safe as we possibly could. And once you've done that, once you've prepared, and once you've trained, and once you've planned as things to the best of your ability, after that, there's really nothing else you can do. And so even though the fear wouldn't go away, I wouldn't focus on that fear. I wouldn't worry about it anymore, because I'd already done everything I could to try and keep everyone safe. So that fear doesn't really go away, but you have to learn to control it. And you can't let it eat you up. You can't let it worry you all the time. You do what you can, and then you stop worrying about it. And that was when I was in war. The other thing that I'm scared of, that I was scared of then, and that I'm still scared of now, is letting people down. Letting down my friends or letting down my family. And that is why I work hard and do my best at everything that I do, because I am scared to let people down. I know that people count on me, and I don't want to disappoint them. And I'm scared of that. So I prepare and I try to be ready for anything so that I do not let people down. The next question is from Owen, and Owen is 13 years old, and he is from Idaho. And the question is, and Owen wrote a really nice long letter. So thank you for writing me that very nice letter, Owen. And Owen's question is, what is the best way to prepare for the military? And it's a good question. Here are some things that I think you need to do to prepare for the military. Number one, study hard in school. There are lots of things that you have to learn when you get in the military. So you have to know how to study. You have to know how to learn. And one of the best ways to know how to learn is to learn in school and study in school, and make sure that you learn how to study in school. You got to remember that your mind, your brain, your knowledge is the most important weapon that we have as human beings. So study hard and become as smart as you can. That is the weapon you need the most. Be smart. Study hard. Now also, the military isn't only mental. It's also physical as well. And so to get ready for the physical fitness side, you got to do some sports. Sports will make you physically fit. And the other thing that's good about sports is they will get you used to working with other people and possibly being in a leadership position. So sports are great. Whatever sports they are, soccer, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, football, basketball, name a sport and go do it. And do a bunch of different sports. Don't just focus on one, do a bunch of different sports. And then on top of that, yes, you do some working out. Do some exercise, do pull-ups and push-ups and dips and squats and burpees and lunges and sit-ups. Do all kinds of different exercises so that you can be physically strong. And then another thing you could do is go into some clubs in your school, like student council, where you have to work with other people. Because we're trying to be ready. When you're in the military, you're part of a team. So you have to be a team player. So any club that you can do, any sport that you can do, any time where you can be a part of a team is going to help you be a better team player and also a better leader. And the last thing is stay out of trouble. Because these days they are very, very strict about who they allow in the military. So if you got in bad trouble, there's a chance that they wouldn't even let you in the military at all. So don't risk it. Keep your nose clean. I don't know if people say that anymore, but when I was a kid, the parents and the adults would say you need to keep your nose clean, which meant stay out of trouble. So keep your nose clean, Owen. Work hard, train hard, study hard, and good luck in the military. I got a next question from Veronica, who lives in Minnesota. And Veronica is 8 years old, and she's been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 2 years. And there's a boy who wrestles in my class, and he's always telling me that wrestling is better than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What do you think, Uncle Jake? Which one is better? Excellent question, Veronica. So wrestling and Jiu-Jitsu both have strengths and weaknesses, but they are both awesome. Wrestling definitely has better takedowns, meaning wrestlers do a better job of taking their opponent down to the mat. So a wrestler can actually effectively take their opponent down, and they also learn to effectively prevent themselves from being taken down. So wrestling definitely has an advantage of being able to take people down or not get taken down. Now, if you think about it, that's important because jiu-jitsu fighting takes place on the ground. So if you think about it, if you weren't able to take a person to the ground, you wouldn't be able to do jiu-jitsu on them. So that's why wrestling is definitely important. But once you're on the ground, the thing that's limiting about wrestling is wrestling doesn't really know how to finish a fight. There's no submissions in wrestling. As you know, in wrestling, or if you don't know, in wrestling, if you pin the person, meaning if you put their shoulders on the ground, on the mat for 3 seconds, they automatically win. But in a real fight, in a self-defense situation, that doesn't mean the fight's over. And that's what's good about jiu-jitsu. In jiu-jitsu, a jiu-jitsu player knows how to do submission holds. So once the fight is on the ground, a jiu-jitsu person has a definite advantage. Another advantage of wrestling is that wrestling is very intense and people go very, very hard in wrestling, harder than they do in jiu-jitsu most of the time. And that's an advantage because they get in really good shape. But it's also a disadvantage because they use a lot of energy. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you actually conserve your energy so that you can last longer and you can wear out your opponent. So they're both have advantages and disadvantages, but here's the truth. And here's what Uncle Jake thinks. Wrestling and jiu-jitsu are both grappling, and they work amazing together. So don't worry about what other people think. Just keep training grappling of all kinds. And by the way, there's more than just jiu-jitsu and wrestling. There's also judo. There's sambo. There's all kinds of different grappling sports. And they're all good. They all complement each other. And all of them are fun. And the better you get and the more you train, the more fun you are going to have. So keep training jiu-jitsu. Maybe take a little wrestling too. Up there in Minnesota, they got great wrestling. And I'll tell you, I see kids nowadays, they are combining wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And they're using it really, really well. I see jiu-jitsu kids use jiu-jitsu in wrestling tournaments, and I see wrestlers use wrestling in jiu-jitsu tournaments. And they both can be very effective. So have fun with them. That's the most important thing. And that is it for questions. And I wanted to read a quick story written by Uncle Jake about when he was a kid and how he learned something about life. So here is a story from Uncle Jake. When I was a little kid, I had a friend named Steve. Steve and I used to do a lot of things together. We'd play sports and we'd build forts and we'd play army sometimes. We did all kinds of things. And there was another kid named William. And William's dad was super rich. He had all kinds of cool toys, and he lived in a huge house, and his dad had a really nice car. And one day at school for show and tell, William brought in the most awesome thing I had ever seen. It was a little remote control truck called the Mini Beast. It was awesome. It was painted black with two big, bright green stripes going down the hood and over the roof. It had little windows and it had a fake driver in it with a bright green helmet on. But the coolest thing about the Mini Beast truck was that it worked awesome. It had real rubber tires and real little miniature shock absorbers. And it could go fast and it could jump over things. It could get so much air and it would land and it would roll over sometimes, but then it would just keep going. It was super cool. And I asked William how much it cost. And when he told me, I couldn't believe it. It cost $129. That was crazy. I had never seen that much money in my life. But when Steve, my friend Steve, when he heard that, he got a look on his face that I hadn't seen before. A determined look. I'm going to get one of those, he said. I was surprised. How? I asked him. Where are you going to get that much money? I don't know. But I am going to get one. I am going to save every penny I make. You want to get one too, so we can race them? He asked me. Of course I want one, I told him. But that doesn't mean I can get one. I'll never have that much money. Where would I get that much money from? I asked him. Do you get allowance? He said. I do, but it's only $5 a week. Okay. But that is still $5, he told me. What about birthdays or Christmas or other holidays? Do you get any money then? He asked me. Sometimes I do, I told him. I get $10, sometimes even $20. And what about extra chores? Can you do dishes or rake leaves or pull weeds? Maybe you get some money for that. He said to me, I guess I could ask. And don't forget about ice cream on Fridays, he said. Those ice creams cost $1. We could save that too. He was right. On Fridays at school, we could buy ice cream during recess. And my mom always gave me $1 for that. That's true, I told him. I am going to do it, he said. I am going to get one. I'll do it too, I said. And I was excited to get myself a Mini Beast. The next day was Friday. And at recess, I really wanted an ice cream. Nope, not me. I'm saving my money, said Steve. But I really wanted that ice cream. I'm just going to get one just today, I told him. And then I went and bought it. And a couple of days later, I also wanted a new squirt gun from the corner store. So I bought that. It was only a few dollars. But not Steve. He just kept saving. The squirt gun wasn't even that good. It broke the next day. So I bought another one. And then that one broke too. And since I was sad about the squirt guns breaking, I wanted to cheer myself up, so I took some of my money and I bought a few boxes of whippersnappers. Those little things that you throw on the ground, and when you did, they'd make a little tiny explosion. Pop! Pop! They were really fun. But they also ran out kind of quick. So I bought a few more boxes. Meanwhile, as the weeks went on, Steve wasn't buying anything. He was just saving. And sometimes he would look at me eating an ice cream or throwing a whippersnapper. And I could tell he wanted some. But he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't give in. He just saved all of his money. Now, me, I always figured I would just start saving tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll keep my money. Tomorrow I won't buy anything from the corner store. Tomorrow I'll not get an ice cream during recess. But those tomorrows never came. And I kept spending my money on stuff I wanted right now. Things that would make me feel good immediately. Later, I learned that this is called short-term gratification. Something that makes you feel good right away, right now. Like eating an ice cream cone, that makes you feel good. Or getting a new squirt gun, that makes you feel good. Or throwing a whippersnapper, that makes me feel good. But the problem with short-term gratification is that when it's over, it's over. The ice cream is eaten, the squirt gun is broken, and the whippersnappers are all used up. And then I had nothing. But not Steve. He saved. He fought against short-term gratification. He thought about the future when he would have enough money to buy the Mini Beast truck. I later learned that that's called delayed gratification, when you think about the future and what will be best for you in the future. That's what Steve did. And after 2 months, he had enough money and he went and got himself a Mini Beast, and it was awesome. He brought it to my house and let me drive it. And I wish so bad I could have bought one too, but I couldn't. I couldn't give back the ice cream or return the whippersnappers. My money was gone. But I had learned. I had learned to think about the future instead of the short-term gratification of what I want right now. And for the next few months, I did just that. I delayed my gratification. No more ice creams or squirt guns or whippersnappers. I saved my money, and eventually, I had enough to get a Mini Beast, and it was awesome. And when I got older, I read about an experiment that some doctors did. They would take a little kid and they put him into a room with nothing in the room but a desk. And on that desk would be a marshmallow. One single marshmallow. And the doctors would tell the kid that if he didn't eat that marshmallow for 15 minutes, the doctor would come back and give the kid 2 marshmallows. So if you wait a little while, if you wait for 15 minutes, instead of just getting 1 marshmallow, you would get 2. It seemed like the smart thing to do, but some kids wouldn't be able to stop themselves. Even though they knew they could get more, they just couldn't resist the short-term gratification of eating the marshmallow. But that isn't the end of the experiment that the doctors did. The doctors tracked. They followed and tracked how those little kids did as they grew up. And what they found out was that the kids who could resist their short-term gratification, the ones who could think about the future, those kids did better in life. they ended up healthier. They ended up smarter. They ended up stronger. They ended up with better jobs. Their whole lives worked out better. And that is what I learned from Steve. Don't give in to short-term gratification. Don't do what feels good now. Do what is going to help you in the long run, in the future. And if you do that, your life will end up better. And that is all we have for this Warrior Kid podcast. And if you want to get one of the Warrior Kid books, you can get them at warriorkid.com. And you can also get Mikey and the Dragons. And you can get all these books from Amazon.com. And if you want a Warrior Kid t-shirt or Jiu Jitsu rash guard, you can get them from JockoStore.com. And if you start Jiu Jitsu and you need a Jiu Jitsu gi for kids, you can get one at OriginMain.com. And that is also where you can get Warrior Kid Mulk, which tastes delicious and makes you stronger and healthier. Also, if you want a Warrior Kid picture for your wall, go to flipsidecanvas.com. And that is it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading the books. And remember what Uncle Jake learned from Steve. Don't do just what you want to do now. Don't give in to that. Don't give in to that short-term gratification. Instead, think about what is going to be better for you in the long run. What will be better for you in the future. Now go out there, train hard, study hard, work hard, get after it, and be a warrior